Lucille Ball died alone. Here's why nobody came. America's comedy queen, who made the nation laugh for decades, died in stunning seclusion. As her storied life ended, Lucille Ball, the fiery redhead who revolutionized television and became the first woman to oversee a major Hollywood studio, became increasingly alone. The star, who had captivated 40 million viewers every Monday night, lived in a gorgeous Beverly Hills mansion full of memories and accomplishments, but unfortunately, few visitors. What happened to the cherished figure that graced American living rooms for generations? How could someone who gave so much delight have so little connection in her final chapter? Lucille Ball's latter years reflect a tragic truth that the smiling, wacky Lucy Ricardo never revealed. Friends and family rarely visited the aging actor for shocking reasons that will redefine all you thought you knew about one of Hollywood's greatest stars. Lucy's public image and Lucille's private life were starkly different. Lucy Ricardo was eternally engaged in a web of friendships and plans surrounded by neighbors, friends, and family, while Lucille Ball's social circle had decreased by the 1980s. The reasons why the once-party queen was spending more time alone in her Roxbury Drive home will break your heart. Lucille Ball, born in 1911 during the Taft administration, lived through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the entire television evolution from its infancy to cable. Most of her Hollywood Golden Age peers were dead by the 1980s. Her generation was aging, and younger talents were rising. But that was just the start of why this comic great became increasingly isolated in her later years. Early life and career. We must go back to the beginning to comprehend Lucille Ball's final years' seclusion. Lucy Desiree Ball was born in Jamestown, New York, on August 6, 1911, to Henry Doro and Desiree Day Evelyn Ball. Her childhood was not glamorous like her Hollywood life. Her childhood adversity and volatility shaped her personality and relationships for decades. Lucille's first big trauma occurred at 3 years old. Her telephone lineman father, Henry Ball, died of typhoid disease at 27 in February 1915. This sad loss left her mother with Lucille and Fred, her younger brother. Lucille spent decades trying to fill her father's sudden absence with job and relationships. After Henry's death, Dee Dee worked at a factory to support her children, but financial pressure forced a difficult choice. Lucille and Fred were raised by their maternal grandparents, Fred and Florabelle Hunt, in Celeron, a Lake Chautauqua summer resort. While functional, this arrangement set Lucille's lifelong emotional displacement pattern. Her Methodist grandparents raised her in a strict, austere atmosphere. Fred Hunt had high standards and was strict. This family taught Lucille hard work and discipline, but also a certain emotional guardedness that would characterize many of her adult relationships. Her mother remarried when Lucille was 10, causing another major disruption. Dee Dee's new husband, Edward Peterson, didn't want children, hurting Lucille again. Lucille stayed with her grandparents as her mother and stepfather started a new life, reinforcing her sense of abandonment and that love and stability were tenuous. These early events caused attachment difficulties, according to experts. Lucille struggled with trust and vulnerability throughout her life, putting even her closest friends at arm's length. She became alone in her senior years due to this childhood habit. Lucille became fiercely independent and determined due to these hardships. She convinced her mother to let her attend New York City's John Murray Anderson School of Dramatic Arts, aged 15. It wasn't a good start to her entertainment career. Her teachers informed her she was untalented and encouraged her to change careers. Her teacher advised her to choose any other career. Lucille Ball was unafraid of rejection. This early tenacity in the face of criticism would serve her well throughout her profession, but it also set a pattern of pressing forward regardless of emotional cost, which would later affect her personal relationships and contribute to her isolation. After her theater school disappointment, Lucille modeled as Diane Belmont after the Belmont racetrack in New York. Success led her to become a Chesterfield cigarette girl. She began her metamorphosis from a little town girl to an entertainment star during this time. Lucille's first major role was as a Goldwyn girl in Eddie Cantor's 1933 picture Roman Scandals. She started her career in Hollywood in the 1930s with modest roles in numerous films. She was cast as a chorus girl, or in decorative roles that emphasized her beauty rather than her wit during this time. Lucille's comedy career began in the 1940s. In radio, especially on My Favorite Spouse, she showed her timing and wit. This radio show was the basis for I Love Lucy, which made her famous in America. In these early career problems, Lucille developed the work ethic and perfectionism that would define her greatest triumphs and most difficult personal relationships. She quickly learned that survival required self-reliance and success required excellence. These childhood lessons and early professional reinforcements created the framework for her complex relationships later in life. Understanding these early events helps us appreciate how Lucille Ball's isolation began before she became America's favorite redhead. Her childhood abandonment and rejection left her with deep insecurities that fame and fortune could not repair. Her amazing television and economic triumphs were founded on these fears, a need to show her worth in a world that had often made her feel unwanted. The Desi years. Lucille Ball's marriage to Desi Arnaz was perhaps her most important and complicated. Their love and professional partnership changed television and built an empire. Yet underlying this seemingly perfect partnership lie tensions and problems that would lead to Lucille's later solitude. Working on the RKO musical Too Many Girls in 1940, Lucille met Desiderio Alberto Arnaz y de Acha III, better known as Desi Arnaz. 6 years Lucille's junior, Cuban-born musician and band leader Desi symbolized everything adventurous and unusual from her disciplined upbringing. Just 6 months after meeting, they fell in love and married in November 1940 due to their great connection. When Desi was recruited into the Army in 1943, the couple split further. This phase was another long absence, even though he never served overseas but entertained troops. After the war, Lucille and Desi wanted to work together again, partially for creative reasons and partly to salvage their marriage by limiting separations. I Love Lucy, a breakthrough sitcom that began in 1951 and became television's most popular show, was the result of this dedication. The program revolutionized many things. A live studio audience saw the first 3-camera filming, one of the first to feature an interracial couple and a pregnant lady on TV when Lucille's real-life pregnancy was incorporated. However, the marriage struggled behind the scenes. As his and her celebrity increased, Lucille found it harder to ignore Desi's infidelity. His drinking complicated their relationship and often exacerbated conflicts. Their work cooperation thrived despite personal issues. They started Desilu Productions in 1950 to make I Love Lucy. They led Desilu to become one of the most successful television production firms of the time, creating Star Trek, Mission Impossible, and The Untouchables. By the late 1950s, the strain was too much. After 20 years of marriage, Lucille filed for divorce on March 3, 1960, saying their marriage was a nightmare and nothing like on television. This breakup was complicated since Lucille and Desi maintained a business collaboration and closeness for their children, Lucy and Desi Jr. Lucille became the first woman to run a major television studio when she bought out Desi's shares in Desilu in 1962, shocking Hollywood. This change made her a successful businesswoman and Hollywood figure, as well as a comedian. Her divorce from Desi set patterns that shaped Lucille's other relationships and led to her solitude in her final years. The event made her trust and vulnerability issues worse, making it tougher to develop strong relationships. It formed a pattern of focusing emotional energy on work rather than relationships, which would only grow as she aged. Lucille also suffered this deeply emotional loss in the public eye due to their prominent marriage and divorce. Maintaining a public face during private pain taught her to compartmentalize her emotions, which would later make true connection impossible. Lucy Ricardo, who could communicate so many emotions, was becoming more guarded about her feelings. Understand the Daisy years to understand how Lucille Ball acquired the emotional patterns that led to her seclusion later in life. Professional achievement and personal grief left a tangled legacy that she carried into her later relationships and death. Life after Daisy, Morton Era. Lucille had personal and professional challenges after her difficult divorce from DZ Arnaz. She faced new challenges as a single woman and Hollywood studio president at 50. This transitional phase is when she met comedian Gary Morton, her second husband and life partner until her death. A year and a half after divorcing Dizzy, Lucille married Gary Morton on November 19, 1961. Desi was violent, but Morton, a nightclub comedian 13 years Lucille's junior, was a contrast. After a passionate and dramatic first marriage, she found security and companionship with Gary. Lucille's friends recognized the difference in this second marriage. There was no sadness or betrayal, yet there was no tremendous spark like with Desi. Lucille needed reliability and emotional comfort after her previous marriage ended badly. Gary delivered both. Gary was Lucille's guardian and gatekeeper, according to many people. He shielded Lucille from the outer world by managing her professional and personal life. Professional collaboration was important to Lucille's relationship with Gary, but not with Desi. The Lucy Show, 1962 to 1968, and Here's Lucy, 1968 to 1974, were executive produced by Gary. These shows were profitable and displayed Lucille's comedic talent, but I Love Lucy was more iconic. Lucille was highly conscious of this minor but discernible reduction in cultural effect, adding to her complex emotional state. The Morton years were also marked by Lucille's commercial growth. She became a Hollywood powerhouse in 1962 after buying Desi's Desilu shares. Desilu took risks, greenlighting Star Trek and Mission Impossible, which network executives originally questioned about, but became cultural phenomena. Another important business choice was selling Desilu Productions to Gulf and Western for $17 million in 1967, or over $130 million today. This transaction ended her pioneering role as a female studio head but secured her financial future. Lucille performed into her 50s with her famed work ethic. The entertainment industry was shifting swiftly around her. The 1970s offered fresh comedy and tastes that were progressively different from Lucille's. This changing cultural milieu made her feel disconnected from the industry she helped define. After Here's Lucy ended in 1974, Lucille began to take a break from television. The loss of structure and creativity left a hole that was hard to replace, adding to her final years of seclusion. How Lucille Ball lived her final years with few visitors is complicated and painful. Her legendary perfectionism and high standards, which made I Love Lucy a breakthrough, became more rigorous and challenging as she matured. Lucille's famed work ethic, which catapulted her to incredible success, led to her isolation, which is shocking. She kept rigid habits and standards for herself and others into her 70s. Younger entertainers were more easygoing about work and socializing. Lucy maintained her old-fashioned politeness and professionalism. This generational divide made her fall below social norms. She was also perfectionist in appearance. Aging was a concern for Lucille in an industry that valued youth, especially for women. Friends said that she became more self-conscious about her appearance and refused visits when she didn't look good. The woman who had bravely performed slapstick comedy and been viewed in the worst light for a laugh was acutely aware of her aging face and physique. Health difficulties exacerbated Lucille's seclusion. Though she kept her health issues quiet, she had many later life illnesses. Her aorta ruptured during a cardiac attack in Beverly Hills on April 18, 1989. Gary Morton, her second husband, took her to the hospital after she started having horrible pain. Famous for her physical comedy and inexhaustible energy, she became progressively immobile before her death. Lucille, like many aging entertainment giants, saw the world move on without her, which was heartbreaking. The television environment altered drastically since I Love Lucy. New comedy styles, stars, and sensibilities arose. Lucille was still recognized as a pioneer, but the industry had moved on. The aging star in a youth-obsessed industry received fewer calls and invitations, and many old colleagues were aging or dead. The entertainment business has always been known for turning relevant stars into legends. Relevant celebrity became a respected but ignored icon, as the industry sometimes does with legends. Lucille made her name with physical comedy that requires energy and timing. She performed physically rigorous slapstick acts as Lucy Ricardo. As she matured, these performances became harder, but audiences still expected her physical comedy. She became anxious about public performances in her later years because of this unachievable standard. Lucille saw the huge difference in treatment of male and female aging stars. Seniors like Bob Hope, George Burns, and Johnny Carson worked and remained relevant. Female stars of the same era had less opportunities as they aged. Someone who has broken several industry boundaries for women was unhappy about this double standard. Lucille's final TV comeback sadly showed this. At 75, she starred in Aaron Spelling's ABC sitcom Life with Lucy in 1986. The return of America's favorite redhead to weekly television was expected. The series bombed and was canceled after 8 episodes due to low viewership. Lucille was devastated by this rejection,